Let's look at measures of central tendency. We'll start with a question. How many unifix cubes are in a handful? You can see that I collected some data by grabbing handfuls of unifix cubes and connecting them into towers. This is a statistical question because I anticipated variability, that every time I reached my hand in, I might grab a different number of cubes. Sometimes I'll do this activity with a whole class of students, and everyone will take a handful, and we'll each have a tower and try to figure out the answer to our question, how many cubes are in a handful? Measures of central tendency, or measures of center, are ways of trying to find that answer, to find a typical value. So we're looking for a single number that summarizes our data. We'll be looking at mean, median, and mode. First, we'll look at median and mode. Over here on the right, I have what I would call a real graph, where I've literally constructed a graph out of my objects. It resembles a bar graph because I have the unifix cubes, and I can use it to organize my data, and then I'll do some analysis here at the measures of center. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll count the number of cubes in my towers. And for the median, if I have the numbers arranged from least to greatest, which I do, I can look at the one that's literally in the middle. My median is 7. For the mode, I look at the number that occurs most frequently. I had 2 towers that had the same height, 2 towers of 7, so that becomes my mode because all of the other ones had different heights. In this case, my median and my mode were the same, but that's not always going to be true. Let's look at mean. First, we'll figure out the mean without actually doing a calculation. So you can see in the video that I take my tallest tower, remove one block, and put it on the shortest tower. My goal is to get all of the towers with the same height. The mean value would be represented by towers of the same height. So I have a problem here that I have some towers that are 7 and some towers that are 8. So I know that my mean will be between 7 and 8. If I wanted to get a slightly better number for my mean, I could think about, well, if only I could take these 2 extra blocks and distribute them evenly to the 5 different towers. Well, that's just 2 divided by 5, or 2/5. So in other words, each of my towers would have 7 cubes, and if I could slice up the 2 extra cubes and distribute them evenly, we'd have 7 2/5 cubes per tower. So what I did was I took my tallest tower and moved a block to the shortest tower. If I had had more varied data, I could have repeated this process over and over until I had all towers the same height. I can also use a formula. So for the average formula, we take all of our data points and we add them up. And then we divide by the total number of data points. 5 data points, 5 towers. This ends up being 37 divided by 5, or 7 2/5. Again, the average can just be interpreted as if we redistributed our unifix cubes and evenly put them in 5 handfuls. Let's look at some examples. So here we have 2 data sets, and we'll find the median and the mode. First, I'm going to start by arranging the data from least to greatest. To get the mode, I look for the value that occurs most frequently. In the first data set, I actually have 2 modes because the value 4 and 6 both occur twice in our data set. So our modes are going to be 4 and 6. In the second data set, 2 occurs 3 total times, which is more than any other value, so our mode will be 2. To get the median, one way I can do this is start crossing off from the ends until I get to the middle point. I have a median of 5 in the first data set. And in the second data set, since I had an even number of data points, I'm left with 2 middle values, so I'll take halfway between those, or in other words, I'll take the mean. So we have a median of 2.5. Mean, median, and mode we usually use with numerical data, but it's possible when we have categorical data to think about the most frequently occurring category, or the category with the most number of entries. If I gave some kind of survey perhaps and the answers were cat or dog, you can see in this case that dog was the category with the most number of entries. It would not make sense to take the median or the mean of this list of data. We'll be talking more about the mean. It's a very rich topic in mathematics. We'll be looking at it more deeply as leveling out and then also as a balance point.